You are live. Okay, with and showing off the 10 from the other video. Yay. I was going to do the reveal thumbnails, but those don't seem to attract very much attention from casual scrollers or whatever. So, and I usually try to put the, some of the boxes on display and things, but I didn't want to displace the holiday decorations and all that yet. Since it's not New Year's now, Thursday is the 3-year anniversary of this channel. Yay! So, but instead of doing an anniversary special, I might sleep all day. Who knows? So I was going to do this video on Friday, but if I think of something else, I might do a anniversary special on Friday. We'll see. I don't know, or I'll think of another video that needs to be done possibly. So I'm doing this early, even though the challenge doesn't officially begin until next week, because it takes a while to compile all these lists and things and think about what I want to say that isn't just restating what was already in unboxing videos and such. Although this is kind of an unboxing video too. But I didn't bring in all the exact boots because some of them are still packed in boxes and in the cupboard and whatnot. But I have most of them here, including the alternates. So in the list, okay, we'll start from the beginning in a minute. But in the list, some of them are weather dependent, as I explained in the previous challenge. So if it rains a bunch, instead of wearing this, I will probably be wearing something more like this, because this one has the waterproof inside and this one does not. And I don't know if you can even see that, but etc., etc. And I just got these and haven't worn them yet. So I just did that unboxing video like a week or two ago or something. Whereas these I've been wearing pretty often recently, so no reason to stop now as long as the weather is pretty good. So the other channel did Bootsology or Bootology. He did the 12 boots in 12 weeks challenge, and I tried to engineer a similar challenge, orchestrate, however you want to term it, for autumn that went kind of rough at first because a bunch of the things that I picked were not really great autumn shoes. They were better winter shoes, like these. So, I think I wore these once or twice and then gave up and then wore them once or twice again later. Whereas these I didn't have yet. So these are the Oak Street Upland ones. I just did a video about these around the same time as the DuraShocks. And I finally got my rebuilds, the ones I'm holding up in the thumbnail, the MTO mock toes for the Knicks rebuild, that I had gotten the original of those in July. So episode 2, whichever episode. I'm not going to list all the episode numbers again this time, actually, because that takes too long to scroll through all of them. And I don't want this video to be an hour long like some of the other ones. But basically, what he had decided, because he has like 150 pairs of boots or something, and I don't have that many. Builder Pro 228. So back, and 6 months ago, I had gotten the one pair and they didn't fit very well. They were way too tight. Similar to these, I had to get these in a triple E or something because that was what was available. I think that's a little wider than necessary. The other ones I went with a regular E and that worked out. Seems like they'll be fine, but I've had them for 2 weeks and I haven't worn them yet. So definitely want to try and get to those. So he was saying that, yeah, he has a problem with so many pairs of boots. He has trouble getting to wearing all of his pairs. And I bought a lot of my boots, not even intending to get through all of them. And I have maybe half what he has, maybe a little bit more if you count some real kind of bargain basement stuff that I still have lying around, or some pairs that I bought several years ago that are too narrow on me now. That kind of thing. So the list, The list vanished as soon as I went to the thing, so I have to get the other one. So I wanted to start. So originally, when I first made the first list, this is not going to be the exact same as that. That's the wrong one there. Okay. I made the initial 8 finalists, and I kind of flip-flopped on the last couple up until like yesterday, basically. And then I made the alternates to be more for wet weather. So the first one I showed, the Wolverine loader, which I've talked about quite a bit, and I've had these for like a couple of years now, and I was doing a head-to-head challenge of these and the Golden Fox, which I shelved to wear these because I have 2 other pairs of these. Like I said, the mirror of these in the alternates is the DuraShocks. So just going down the list. Pair 1, alternate pair 1, right? So that's pretty straightforward. But they're both, sorry, I'm off camera. They're both essentially a very similar boot, as you can plainly see. So like I said, you can go back and watch my unboxing videos and my other videos about the 12 boots challenge at your leisure, rather than me talk about every single boot in detail in this particular episode. Before I've worn some of them, or many of them I've worn a few, a bunch. So the next on the list then is the Thursday Captain Cap Toe service boot, and the alternate was the Wolverine 1000 mile, but I'm probably not going. No, sorry, the 1000 mile should be somewhere else. That's in the wrong spot. The alternate to that would be the Hero Waxed Flesh, which is more similar to the President boot, except it has the Captain style, or my Captain style outsole, because not all Captains have the exact same outsole. But so we have a pretty water resistant version, like I've said recently, and then a more waterproof waxed flesh version. These, I was trying to kind of baby them and keep them in case I had too much rainy winter, but since I got the DuraShocks and the other Wolverine ones that aren't even in here, and the Keen ones that I'm going to show again in a minute that I wore already last week, last week when it was raining, Christmas Eve or whatever. So these are basically the same boot, though. One has the little bit more decoration and a slightly different leather, but and these ones fit slightly different because the last was different. The Wolverine 1000 miles are very similar. Also, I do have the President model that is more similar to this Chromexel kind of leather. These made the alternate list. I didn't bother to put the President on the alternate list, even though they're a little bit slightly fancier boot, and I've done head-to-head with these in videos before, but these are technically on the back burner and not part of the official alternates list. But since I didn't bother to bring in the Oliver Cabell boots, they're similar to those, except the Oliver Cabell boots run big on me, so I need to wear them with thick socks, which means it makes more sense for me to wear those in winter than the 1000 mile ones if I'm going to wear a service style boot that isn't the Captain boot or the Hero boot. But caveat, the leather is slightly different. It's not the same exact Chromexel. The fit's slightly different. Okay. But the Oliver Cabell boots, I wore them quite a bit when I first got them, and then they've been neglected since then. So if this winter is friendly enough, user friendly enough, I'll wear those. But then the next on the list was literally the Thursday President, but this time the black coffee ones, which as you can see I still haven't worn, but people are really watching this video a lot, so I feel like I kind of owe it to them to get them out of the bags and get them on my feet finally this time around. Whereas the other ones I've worn quite a bit. In fact, I wore them a lot until I got the Wolverine 1000 miles, and then I started saying, well, I'll keep the President Chromexels nice and wear the other Chromexels with the slightly different toe style and all that. So this is not a direct one-to-one head-to-head like some of the other ones, but might as well go to these since I mentioned them already, which is the Keen utility boots, which of course are nothing like a traditional service boot. They're definitely a more modern style work boot with, again, a waterproof membrane and cushy footbeds and all that kind of things, and 4-speed hooks and the cutaways for the, the flex points and all that kind of thing. And a fairly standard kind of hiking tread. These, again, just to mention it, they're, they don't have quite the shank I would want for a work boot, but they also don't have the toe room I would want for a hiking boot. But if I want to keep my feet dry, they should be adequate. So if I have to wear them once in a while for, doing chores or taking a walk when it's a little bit more threatening to rain, then I would like. I did try to do a waterproof test with a different pair and some other clothes, and I was soaked in 20 minutes, and the water was seeping in through the back of my pants into my socks and down into the boot. But it was a 6-inch boot, the other Keen model that I scrapped for winter, and I'll bring those back in the spring if I need them. This being a taller shaft, hopefully we'll have less of that issue. And let's see. So that does bring us to the ones I showed, the OT, JK. Again, these I bought to be warm weather hiking boots, and I don't know that I'll ever use them for that. I've said this a bunch of times. But they're pretty close to the heavy duty boot that I do some chores in some of the time. Although when I was doing other outdoorsy chopping wood kind of stuff recently, I was using these because I didn't want to track in all the mud. So I wanted the the more bog friendly outsole than the wilderness survival thing. So these didn't get all squishy and muddy and gunky. And so, just as a matter of practicality, again, not the one I wanted to go with. Again, I did get these a little bit in a wider size, so I've debated on getting them rebuilt and see how it goes, but it's not a priority. And I have other heavy-duty boots, so. But I do plan to use these in the winter again to put some wear on these outsoles before I spend the money to do any refurbishing to them, because I don't just take a brand new pair of boots and make them look different like some guys do or whatever. Although, again, the fit was a little touch and go, but I put the insole from another shoe in there and soaked up some of the extra volume, and they fit pretty well for casual use now. So next was the NYX Packer boots, which of course is a heavy duty boot also, but with a more riding style heel. But I put the rubber V-bar instead of the leather standard because I don't really ride horses. I just like cowboy boots. And since I have trouble getting in and out of pull-on boots for casual daily use, I got these instead. But I did get them in a wider width, so they don't have a really cowboy toe. I did get that other pair, chapter whatever, with the more western toe and all that. And I will look that one up. Just for people who are interested in that one instead of this one. If I can find it in less than 5 seconds. It should be right here. Okay, Packer. 11 months ago, that was this one. Chapter 189 was this boot. And then, wait, or was that the other one? Oh, maybe that was okay, maybe that is the other one. MTO unboxing. I think that's the other leather. And these would have been from previous. I don't know. I've done so many boot videos. Yeah, this would have been from previous. Okay. Sorry for the delay here. That's the other one that I'm not including that I will probably try and wear soon, though. That's not it. That's too far. I got them a while ago, I guess. Longer ago than I thought. It was after that then. I said I wasn't going to do this, and here I am doing this. I also did a comparison of Nicks and White's fitting kind of stuff, chapter 118, and there was another one. There it is, 131. This one was 131. What did I say the other one was? Don't know. Anyway, whatever number. Like I said, it's going to take way too long to try and do that kind of thing. What are you doing? Okay. Sorry, my computer went to the other screen. These are, like I said, kind of a hybrid boot invented back in the 30s or the 20s or the 1880s or whenever it was. And, just because, yeah, typically you don't want a lace-on boot on a saddle in the stirrups because you can get dragged by your horse. But when the mule skinners and stuff were doing things where they were riding less and walking more or whatever, this was kind of devised. And I like that. And like I said, I can get in and out of them a lot easier than the other ones sometimes. So I did not include, even though I have the Ariat ones that I just got and the 2 pairs of the Thursday Maverick in different colors, which are both Western pull-on, but the exact same style. And again, a little bit more pointy, almond toe or whatever, than these kind of rounded ones or ovally ones, or however you want to call it. So then the waterproof alternate to that, I didn't really have a waterproof alternate to that, but I did have the Grant Stonefield boot in waxed flash, which is another Wedge outsole, similar to this one, but a little bit different. But with the D-rings and with the big, not very great for hiking in California outsole, and that one's in the box. It's over there, so I'm not getting that out. And the waxed flesh is very similar to what we already showed here, where this coating kind of rubs off with time, and you get a more rough looking suede kind of texture. I guess this would be the easiest one to, not necessarily the easiest one to show that with, but if I can get a light on it, yeah, you get the idea. Anyway, if you don't know anything about boots, then this is your first boot video. Sorry, it's not the best boot video for specs and explaining all the stitching and the different styles of construction and all that. It's not really, like I said, I've done those unboxings and I'm not even really that in depth about all those kind of things as some of the others. Anyway, but again, meant to be more of a game stalking style boot that I like the look of a lot. Kind of a old school mountain man, northeast woods, north woods, whatever kind of look. Your buffalo plaid shirt, So he said Nick's Packer, Oak Street. Oh, well, that conveniently brings us to Oak Street, Mocktoe, Upland. So this is the next one that I was about to talk about. Anyway, so hey, look, yes. So after some trouble, I had finally located these that are a lot more what I was looking for when I bought their companion, which is in the box. I didn't bring it in here, but the companion alternate is the LL Bean Mocktoe Upland waterproof version, which I got those in October, I think, not that long ago. So I did the unboxing of those, and I did a wear review, a kind of a initial impressions discussion of those already. So, and I did a whole mock toe video just last week or the week before about the stylistic differences and similarities of these particular things. So Boot Talk 280 and a couple of the other ones, I really went into it. And a Mocktober LL Bean was episode 260. And the unboxing was episode 257. So yeah, those two within the last 2 months, I've already done like 3 or 4 videos about these boots and those boots. So again, I'm not going to talk too much about them, except again, these Wedge outsoles are very comfortable, very nice for asphalt, but I don't think they'd be ideal for hiking. So I want to use them through the winter a bit and wear down these outsoles and replace them with ones that I would want to take to the real outdoors. So that's what's on the horizon. And I took out the laces. The laces that came with them were like even longer than the Thursday laces for some reason. Then the Grant Stone Diesel Walnut Bison was the next one. Again, we're talking very similar to this service boot, which is why, again, this one is getting shelved. And I will try to wear that one, which is more or less also similar to the Thursday President and the Hero to a lesser extent or whatever. But yeah, we're talking, a couple speed hooks, a couple eyelets, more or less the same profile, similar outsole. So again, this one's sitting in for the Oliver Cabell and the Grant Stone Diesel, but this is neither of those boots, of course. But pretend it is, and feel free to watch that unboxing and watch for future updates when I actually finally wear the stupid things that I bought. Last year? I think I got those on sale, so that was a nice Black Friday discount or something. And the alternate to that would be, not a direct alternate, but the alternate to that, which I don't have in here either, is the Georgia Boots Insulated Logger. That's like an 8-inch. I'll have to fix that in the other thing maybe. Yeah, kind of a thin leather, kind of similar, I guess most similar to the Keen boot, but a little more heritage looking. But it is a lace to toe pattern, so I'll talk about that in a minute when I show you this other one, which I guess should be the alternate to that one instead of that one. I'm doing these in exact order, I guess. I already talked about the Cabell. So yeah, we're only 2 boots away from that anyway. So okay, a little patience. So next last technically on the official list of finalists, the ones I just finally wore yesterday out the box. I went back and forth on the round toe or the mock toe. So these, of course, are the mock toe. Sorry, let me undo that. And these, of course, are the 8-inch that I had to wait to get because of supply chains or whatever. I finally got the ones that I wanted instead of some more 6-inch boots. So these, of course, are standard Wedge sole boots. You can see I barely wore them for a little bit outside finally. I had worn them in the house a little bit previously. I hadn't really done a wear review, but you can see there's a tiny bit of creasing on this one, and then a little bit less creasing on this one, more in the correct spot. I don't know why this one wants to fold more in more places and stuff. But a tumbled leather, a very similar to the Wolverine. The first ones I showed, the loaders, but a little bit taller shaft, a little bit thinner leather, maybe, probably a slightly better grade of leather. I don't know how Anvil grades these things, but he said these were the ones to get if you don't want the stiff, heavy Red Wings. So I said, okay, that sounds good. And they really shouldn't require much break-in out of the box. Although these are a little narrow. I probably could have gone a little bit wider, but the leather being so pliant or pliable or whatever, apart from the toe cap, that's here, I don't really expect an issue, but again, not enough toe room to really want necessarily maybe use as a hiking boot if I ever replace this with a different outsole. We'll see. I don't know. I had them for a while and I didn't use them because I kept telling myself I needed to baby them for some other reason, but then I got the steel toe ones on accident, which I've talked about in like 3 videos already, and then I got the round toe ones last year, which I would be more inclined to use for work again, and just use these for more casual, just to have them because I like the color, I like the look. I might remove the Made in USA tag just because it doesn't look that heritage on there. I know some people would probably say, but that's the symbol of the yeah, but it also looks kind of weird on the outside of the, and on both. I don't know why they didn't put it somewhere else. And the pull tabs and the 8-inch and the collars, the rolled collars, and this. Oh, maybe that rough out looks a little bit more like what I was trying to describe earlier. Easier to visualize anyway. Full. Again, that's what the outside of those other ones will end up looking like. But so yeah, so you can see how these crinkle and crease and everything really pretty quick. Only a tiny little bit of wear as opposed to, you know, the more heavy duty, barely shows any creasing in them, even though I've worn these more than you'd actually think from looking at them. So the alternate to those, I don't necessarily have an alternate to those. We've kind of, because that was the last on the official list, but then like I said, we already talked about Oliver Cabell on the official list, and so I guess the alternate to those might be any of my pairs of Trumans that have been neglected that I might just throw in. Because in the alternates, I know I said 8 in the title, but it's more likely 10 or 12 pairs than the full 16. But, you know, like I said, I was trying to do a mirror of the finalists with their understudies, but that kind of ran out when I started to add more to the actual semi-finalist alternate list as opposed to the, again, practical weather service alternate list. Does that make sense? Because like I said, some of them are almost the exact same boot, just waterproof, and some of them are totally different boot. So that's wherein lies the rub. So the Wolverine 1,000 mile, again, being 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that would be 14 pairs of boots if we included that, which again, we're not including technically, but also these other ones that are down here at the bottom that I'm going to do last. And skip ahead. Okay, so then next, I guess I'll do these in this order instead. Next would be these are basically also a packer boot. They're just black. And since I plan to wear a lot more, so I guess these are the alternates to this-ish. I don't know how you want to quantify that. But of course, the Rose Anvil Drifter 2.0, which I've worn a bit, not a ton, some. But also another heavy-duty boot where I don't really like the outsole as much as some of the other ones. So another one that I was thinking of recrafting. They're a little bit narrow again, but I've kind of gotten used to them-ish, where it's not so much that they've broken in as much as I just can wear them for hours on end, whereas when I first got them, I was like, oh, God, okay, 15 minutes was enough, you know. And the extra arch support, which is not in the same place as the Knicks. For some reason, the Knicks ones are just more comfortable to me, and I'm not the only one who's had this. So some of you might think that the whites, the arch support's in a better position for your foot. Some of you might like the Knicks better. That's why a lot of people are like, oh, $800 for a pair of boots. You don't even know if they're going to fit. It's like, well, yeah, but it's trial and error because you might like the one brand better in theory, but then when you actually get them, you can't wear them as comfortably as the other brand. So, you know, because I was dying to get a hold of White's boots from, you know, the positive reviews and things I had read of them, but ended up with a bunch more of Nick's boots since then so far because, like I said, the arch just is more comfortable to me. And I'm told that Frank's is more similar to the Knicks in terms of that. So I guess if I ever upgrade to Frank's, hopefully it'll be an easy transition like they've told me. So we'll see. But in the meantime, I already have these and those and those and those. And so, sorry, Frank, you're going to have to wait. And they don't make the Patriot boot in my size. And I've had this conversation with them on the phone, so I can't even try them. You know, I like to buy the inexpensive version and try it on and see how it goes before I order a more expensive MTO, which is, again, why I have these, but I also have the other pair that I haven't really worn in the other room that are a lot more spec'd out, but actually fit worse because I didn't want it, again, to have this kind of toe, so I went with the more narrow toe, which smashes my foot. So so they're more dressy version, and they won't get used as much. And these smash my toes a little bit, but here they are. But I will definitely wear these this winter at some point because they're black, and I have winter stuff to wear with them. Okay, so that. But if I'm going to be wearing something going hiking and such, also a whites boot, but this is like a more budget version, the Hawthorne line. So I tried to talk about these in that other video. These are beat up, and they're a little big on me. I had to, buy them used and kind of try and figure that out. But again, more standard outsole, a bit more of the arch support, but not maybe as pronounced. I don't know if they put as much leather into these. The heel stack's a little bit lower than some of the other logger boots. This one's having a little bit of separation issues and such, but I wore them hiking and they did okay. They dig into the soft mud a bit in the heels, though. That was kind of actually a drawback that I wasn't expecting or anticipating or whatever. But I think these are maybe fire certified, but I'm not positive. But I'm not using them for that reason. But this is the lace to toe that I was talking about before with the Georgia boots. So it's a slightly different lacing system, and you got a couple more eyelets down toward the toe, hence the toe. And so different from this one, which most of these boots are service style boots, so they have a derby construction with the overlays instead of this, which is an underlay. So if you can see it's a cleaner look. It's an interesting look. Both Knicks and Franks have told me they don't like lace to toe style boots as much. They say they have more issues with people with them for whatever reason, but they both make tons of them. So I don't know. And Whites makes like 6 different ones. I couldn't even tell you which ones are which when I was going through the whole website trying to figure out which ones were the best value for my money if I wanted to get, replace these anytime soon, because again, these are not quite the right size. Yeah, inconclusive, but again, not going to be an issue for at least another year and a half. So these as beat up as they are, they'll still work. And these I've barely worn at all. So even if I switch this outsole to more like that other outsole or whatever in the not too distant future, finally, or whatever, I'll have these still. And of course, like I said, these are, well, when I said they're like a Packer boot, I meant because of the heel more than the toe shape and whatnot. But you can get a Packer boot with this toe shape, yada, yada, yada. But they don't look that much different than a combat boot, which is, how he designed them and all that, if you've already seen his videos. Or my old videos about this where I whined and moaned about the sizing and the fit and all that. Excuse me. A little bit of maintenance. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. I promise. So that's the Hawthorne lace to toe, spelled Hatorn, and I don't know if there's an E at the end of that or not, but there's no W in it. So very similar to that, in theory, but not exact makeup. Oh, I did that out of order. That's okay. We missed one. On the unofficial list, then is the Thursday Challenger, which of course this was their response to the more Pacific Northwest brands like JK and Whites and Nix. Although this Nix one again being different than the regular Builder Pro Logger boot, which is the more heavy duty version than the Georgia one that I talked about, which is the insulated, but I don't think it's a waterproof one. I think it's just insulated. So I might get more use out of that if it doesn't rain. This one, of course, not insulated at all, not as tall as I usually like. I just bought it to kind of get that arch support and compare them, and they were half the price of the Nix ones or whatever. I did have to put the neoprene in here to, again, soak up some of that extra room. The neoprenes came from the JK boots, but they weren't enough volume to fill the JK boots, whereas they filled this almost perfectly for me. So that was nice. It came with a pull tab, which you don't really need on a 6-inch boot. In fact, if you look at these, I chopped the nylon ones off because I thought they looked extra stupid, whereas these still have them for whatever reason that they included. But and the DuraShocks have nylon ones, no leather. Okay, they're just attached in a slightly different manner than the other ones. So this is kind of stupid because this could catch on things. Maybe, I don't know. But that's how they did this instead of tacking it down like the other loader ones. But yeah, these 8-inch ones came, I think these came standard. I don't think I was modifying this at all. I think this was just the off the rack style. So why this has it, I don't know. It doesn't really need it. Whereas the 10-inch ones, I got the pull tabs on purpose. I just liked having them for carrying them around more than actually putting the boots on and off. I did that me, but this one has it. It doesn't need it. It has a bit the tougher outsole than the other Thursday, because obviously a Vibram instead of the proprietary Storm King sole or their other imitation day-night sole. Oh, I didn't show that one. Because the one on the Wolverine, that's a sole that I had added that didn't come with that sole. It was leather. This is the bottom of the President boot, of course, the black copy, which I didn't really show earlier. So you're finally seeing it out of order, whatever. So this is a more standard street sole that's supposed to be pretty good for wet conditions and that kind of thing. How it does with ice and all that, I don't know. Hopefully I won't have to find out in the wrong kind of way. But if I think I'm going to be experiencing icy conditions or whatever, I don't know if this is the go-to shoe I'd be choosing anyway. So these do have supposedly a real cap toe instead of a fake one like the other one. Typically, I don't really need a cap toe on most of my boots. This was just standard. It came, again, you couldn't modify this like the other MTO companies. It doesn't have the false tongues to protect the gusseted thing. It's not the exact same thing. Again, the leather's a lot thinner than kind of typical Pacific Northwest leather, but they're an okay little chore boot. I imagine they're a decent day hike boot, so I might get more use out of them for that purpose than those other ones. These, although again, do I really want the heel stack always in the mountains? I don't know. I kind of want the arch support more often, which is kind of why I got these for more street use, just to have an inexpensive pair to wear around instead of beating up one of the other ones. But of course, that was before I got these. But of course, these don't have quite the same arch support anyway, I don't think. And I did have to put. They do though have more than I think a standard drop boot. Even any of the logger boots that you get from Carolinas and Georgias and Red Wings and all those other companies that say they're logger boots because they might put a heel on it, but they do not have the built-up leather shanks and all that. This one I had to put the foam, or not the foam, the gel. This one I put the gel insoles in them to really suck up as much volume as possible. Because like I said, they are half a size too big, whereas most of the rest of these are, this is not half a size too big. It's kind of borderline. This, of course, I had to go up. They said to size down, and I sized up. In fact, except for the Pacific Northwest stuff, almost all of them I either needed a wider width or a half size up. The Pacific Northwest stuff, the whites was a little bit hit or miss. Some of them in my size fit, and some of them were too big, like those. The Nicks, some of them fit in a half size down in the regular width, and some of them I needed a wide width, but still had to go half size down, or they would have been huge on me. Okay, so far that's what I've come up with. So the last pair, the final pair, the pair that I, and like I said, I didn't bring in any of the Truman ones, just like I didn't bring in Oliver Cabell or the other Grant Stone. And that was the Challenger. And so the final boot is the Nicks. Again, I just talked about these, like, so I'm not really going to go into them. And I got them 2 weeks ago, and I have not worn them. So I don't want to spend too long and make this video even longer. But of course, I definitely want to wear these now that I finally got them, even though they're down here in the alternates list because again, I slotted in these because for more casual use, yes, whereas obviously this is not the exact same boot. There is a lot more heavy duty. It's not the most heavy duty leather, but it is pretty thick. I don't think it's exactly the same thickness as that walnut or mahogany or whatever. I think I put walnut in the description, and it was supposed to be the mahogany, but I'm not sure that there was any actual difference between the walnut and the mahogany. I think it was just a misdye. So I've refined my urge to go into it because I don't know if they still offer the mahogany, because I don't think the mahogany ever actually existed. I think they still offer the walnut though, but this is not the walnut. This is one of the more specialty leathers. But the Wicket and Craig leathers that looked even prettier were a $200 upcharge. Let me mop the brow one more time. So that, yeah, I didn't end up ordering that. So I'm getting a little bit sweaty here. The heater just came on, so it's like I'm almost done and I'm sweating. And it's still a 40-minute video, so of course I always go over what I wanted to go over. But so here's a proper logger heel, proper arch support. I got the honey. They did not do the stitching through the outsole, which is kind of standard with Pacific Northwest. Again, show that. But again, I did not want the black sole, the heavier, just because I know I'll be using them on asphalt more often, and wanted a bit more squish. And you got the leather natural heel stack, got the pull tab, like I said. I don't really need it, but I just got it. I got the all eyelets instead of any speed hooks on this particular one, which is something I was going to do with this and then didn't. So those of you who think I'm an idiot, that's fine. I don't need speed hooks for every pair of boots. I'm not always trying to get out of the house in less than 30 seconds, especially not if I'm putting on something like this. I want it to be, you know, on and secure and feel good and ready to go meet the day or whatever. So yeah, I've got the fully gusseted, yada yada. I got the protector, got the, you know, bells and the whistles. But again, you know, how this will look, I don't know if it lightens up in a lot, or you know, if it ends up kind of looking more like this or not. We'll see. That's the big thing, because there was a guy who was comparing all the different leathers, and then his channel vanished, so I never did get to see what the full verdict outcome was of all the. Like he had done one boot that had the brown, you know, the leather that's and that other one, and then it had the other color, and then the black. Like it had black on the heel or whatever it was, and then you had one panel of brown and one panel of the other brown and all that kind of thing. And then the other one was these more specialty leathers. He didn't get the extra expensive leathers. I don't think they would have agreed to that. I think that's why they made him get a boot full of work leathers, which of course, you know, isn't going to look that great when they age, and nobody's going to really care how that boot looks compared to this boot with these more fancy leathers. So anyway, I never got to see how that turned out, but he wasn't doing any work in them. He was just running on his treadmill in his office for an hour a day or whatever in his Builder Pros. So, whatever the leather was going to age like, not being exposed to the elements or dirt or work. I don't know. But I thought it was an interesting idea. And so based on that, I narrowed it down and got the leather that I assumed would be the ones that I would want, which of course is this, and the other Packer boot that I didn't bring in here that, again, I'll wear them when I wear them, which will be less casual use and more fancy use than these, which of course this is the work leather. It's more matte. It's more, you know, it'll probably show scuffing less, but it'll never look pretty or as it ages. It'll just age. Theoretically, whatever you're expecting it to do. Turn more brown? I don't know. Anyway, so that's my challenge for January, February. Again, not starting now, starting technically Sunday or Monday, really. And how many of these I get through, I don't know. You know, how much wear and tear they show, I don't know. I'll do. Last time I pretty much did monthly updates instead of weekly updates. I haven't made a decision yet. 2 months is not that long. So if I only do 3 videos, you know, in addition to this one, maybe I'll do 5, maybe I'll do 3. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Or if something significant happens, then, you know, as always, I do put photos in the community menu, but nobody knows to go there until they get to this part of the video that nobody gets to. So if you're ever, you know, wanting to leave questions, you can leave them in the comments. And then if I've already taken a picture or something, I'll tell you, hey, go look at my community post. And there's already 3 photos, you know, that type of thing. But yeah, absolutely. Questions, you know, if you know, feeling uninspired or wondering why I bought that boot, what am I, an idiot, you know, or whatever, feel free to bring it up and we'll figure it out. And of course, like I said, I tried to do a buyer's guide for at least those 2 companies. It's not perfect, but you know, your sizing may differ than mine, you know, but again, if you can order the ones off the shelf, the quick ship ones, try them out, see if they fit or not before you go, you know, the more expensive route. Because like I said, even after I did that, I still ended up having to get these rebuilt. But now I'm very, you know, pretty happy with them, and they think they look about right. So shouldn't be a problem. And like I said, those ones fit me better than the other ones that, again, I did. So I ended up with 2 that didn't fit, even though I had kind of gone through what I thought was the process. So, you know, yeah, well, it took a couple extra months, but it didn't take me any extra money. So here they are. So yay. So, and then, like I said, some of the other ones though, like this one, I tried on 3 different pairs of sizes or something before I finally just settled on these. And like I said, for what they are, they fit well enough now with the insole in them. So, but will I want to get them rebuilt where they fit a little bit better eventually? Yeah, probably. So, especially, it's kind of odd because the heel is where I thought I would have the problem, and it's not where I've really had the problem with these as much as one of the other ones. Maybe not one of the ones in here. So that's kind of where you kind of expect, oh, you know, that's going to, and it hasn't been the issue at all, actually. So you never know. Okay, so happy Tuesday. Like I said, this was supposed to be Friday's video, but here we are.